What is going on, YouTube? So today, no airplane, no paramotor, but I figured I'd do a review on a vehicle that I've had for a decent amount of time now, and I've actually got to put it through its paces. So this would be it. Yeah, it's a Harley, and I'm probably the last person in the world, if you know me, to be pictured on a Harley. So you're probably wondering now, how did you obtain a Harley? That's a great question. I did not go out and buy one. I had this one come into my hands in an odd way, but if you remember in the video I had a few videos back, I had a Mercedes turbo diesel coupe that I drove up from Florida. Well, I ended up listing this vehicle because I just have too many projects in the oven, and I just didn't have time for it. And this gentleman approached me, and he was very nice, and he said, I will trade you straight up for a brand new Harley Davidson. Now, first thing that comes to mind is this is a scam. Okay, because you're talking a 38-year-old car with 260,000 miles, and a person wants to trade you a brand new Harley Davidson. But you know what? I say yes to everything and wait for the end results afterwards. That sounds terrible, but I never just say no. So started talking with the gentleman. Turns out it was the real deal. Met him in a parking lot. Him and his wife test drove the diesel. I guess apparently he had one brand new back in the day, and his wife really wanted it. So I ended up trading my 38-year-old 260,000 mile turbo diesel coupe for this 2014 Harley Davidson 883. Now, what's even more crazy about this motorcycle is it literally has 1,500 miles on the odometer, and I would say at least 600 to 700 of those have been put on by me. I've put a decent amount of mileage on this bike now, which is hilarious. So I figured that this bike deserves a review because honestly, you know, the first thought when a Harley Davidson comes to mind, me personally, and if you know me, I'm a European motorcycle kind of guy. A big collector of BMW motorcycles primarily, but I also have a Ducati and a few other European bikes. I've never been an American motorcycle fan. And I shouldn't say that I think they're not built well. It's just they weren't my cup of tea. So that's how this came into my hands. Now, fast forward, I've spent some time with this bike. And truthfully, my opinion of Harley Davidson and how they ride and just the general consensus of this motorcycle has changed dramatically. No offense to the Harley riders out there, but beforehand, when I didn't get to spend much time with this, I figured Harley as a type of bike that has a lot of bark but not much bite. And what I mean by that is they were crazy loud, but 0 to 60 was less than stellar. After riding this bike, and keep in mind, this is only an 883. This is probably the smallest engine that they make for a V-twin in their line. Don't quote me on that, but I think that is the case. This thing has put more smiles on my face, and it actually is quite surprisingly quick. And you're coming from a guy that owned 1,000cc class motorcycles over the years, R1s and the Augusta F4. This bike impressed me. So if you're wondering out there, oh, is an 883 too small? It'll probably be slow. I should go for the 1200. Don't kid yourself. This bike is actually very quick. And the basis of this video is we'll go out for a little ride and you can get a bird's eye or a first person perspective of what this bike is like to ride. I'll also go over some details of aspects that I really like about it and parts that you wouldn't really expect of a Harley Davidson. I also will label some things that I shouldn't say I disliked, but I just wasn't too big on. But let's do a walk around of the bike itself. I don't know what this color is called, but I kind of like it. Now, this is a V-twin. Obviously, it's an 900cc V-twin. Air-cooled. It is fuel-injected, which is quite cool. No carburation, have to deal with altitude changes or any of that. Another interesting aspect is It is belt driven. No more chain. And I'm a Beamer guy, so I'm used to drive shafts. But the belt is actually pretty nice. It's quiet. I haven't had any issues with it. This is a brand new bike still, essentially. I mean, I essentially went through the break-in procedure, and then I got to actually really open it up. And I'm nice to motorcycles, but I also ride them how they are supposed to be ridden. I am not easy on this bike. In fact, yesterday I was doing 94 miles an hour. Don't tell my mom that, but I was in a hurry and I was in the HOV lane and there's no traffic, and this bike, it performs. It honestly is a great riding motorcycle. But I don't mean to interrupt our little walk around. Now, it does have aftermarket pipes, and don't quote me on this because my Harley lingo is terrible still, but I think they're called Screamin' Eagle pipes. It's ridiculously loud, but I mean, it's a stout setup, and I actually like the design aesthetics of this whole V-twin. It has this vintage sort of style, but with modernisms, and for only an 883, it sounds really ridiculously throaty. It kind of has that warbird type throaty sound. Basic, you know, front suspension, same with the rear shocks. Big disc brakes on both ends. This tank looks ridiculously small, but that's another positive, or I should say a pro about this bike. Its range is actually quite impressive. As much as I'm romping on it going down the highway, I'm not light on the throttle. The gas mileage is actually pretty fantastic. I've been riding this all this past week, and I just now refilled it yesterday. So a whole week of riding, I've refilled it a lot less than I would normally expect with that size of a tank. Now, from a rider's perspective, people are like, oh, it's an 883, it's small. Yeah, it is a smaller motorcycle. I'm 5'9" on a good day if I had my bowl of Wheaties. So I like shorter sitting motorcycles, but I also ride like the Paris-Dakar, which I'm on my tiptoes on, and I don't mind it. If you are a shorter person, this bike is an absolutely perfect motorcycle because its seat height is ridiculously low. It's very manageable, it's very well balanced. And that's one aspect that I loved about this bike was it sits very low, and its center of its CG is very well centered. That's what I really liked about it. So I'll do a quick fire up on this thing. Let me make sure I'm in neutral because, you know, just my luck. Being a Harley Davidson, it probably hasn't caught up with the non-start systems, and voila, off she goes. I sure hope that's neutral. Oh, almost got, there it is. Nice little neutral light if you're wondering. Oil pressure, turn signals, you know, high beams. So like really nice display. But here, I'll start it up for you. You got your basic start, and obviously it sounds like a Harley. I always, once again, not trying to offend any Harley riders, but I always would laugh because they had these ridiculously loud motorcycles, these huge bags, these huge fairings, and I'd be on the Ducati and you could tell they were just wide open throttle, and I'm like, I haven't even opened the throttle on the Ducati yet. Not dissing on that though, because I actually have really enjoyed riding this bike. It's the vibration, the noise, the throatiness. I completely understand why Harleys are preferred bikes by a lot of people. It's been really fun riding this bike. So here's another pro that I really like about this bike. The CG was centered. One thing that I really liked was the ergonomics for the rider itself. These buttons are ridiculously well set up. They're easy access. Let me turn on the key. The key is down here. But what I mean by that is the buttons themselves. You know, you got your horn, your highs, your lows, your turn signals. You turn it off by simply pushing it at the same time twice. It also has a nice little computer system. So literally, I have 1,591 miles. This bike is like brand new. But you know, it has another setup. You know, your clock. Now this setup will show gear RPM. It'll literally show you what gear you're in and what RPM you're in. And when we go for a ride, you'll see what I mean by that. It's very helpful figuring out what RPMs you are at. I watch that stuff because that's a little techie in me that enjoys that, you know, figuring out what the red line is. I think the red line on this is like 6,300 RPM. Has a rev limiter, and I have maximized the RPM range in all gears just to figure out how fast this bike is. And I'll kind of give you a little hint of that when we go ride. But that's one of my favorite parts about this bike, is it is very rider friendly. It's not awkward. The bar position is right here. I've put 150-mile trips on this in a single day, and I was really comfortable. It wasn't sore at all. It's actually a very comfortable bike. This fairing actually helps out a lot, but the wind noise is still there. Cons, you're probably wondering what are aspects that I don't like about the bike. Well, it's heavy. I mean, it's an iron sort of bike. It's heavy in comparison to like my Ducati. This is significantly heavier for 200 cc's less, but that's okay because this serves as a different purpose. This is a cruiser. It's supposed to be comfortable and whatnot. Part that I would say another con is it rides actually a little stiffer than I would have expected out of this bike. Not that that's a negative, and there's tons of aftermarket suspension options out there, but it is stiff. You hit the wrong bump and you're not ready for it, you're bouncing in the seat and your ass cheeks are gonna go airborne. But I got used to that. I'm not dissing on it. Another pro is this thing is significantly faster than you would expect out of an 883. When I first was presented this bike, I'm like, oh my God, a V-twin and an 883, and it's a Harley. I'll be lucky to hit 60 miles an hour. I'll give you a demonstration when we go out for a quick ride. It's fast. It's faster than you would expect. And so when I said, don't knock on it until you try it, coming from a 1,000cc bike series, this was actually very impressive as far as this performance. It has that low end, but it also pulls pretty dang hard all the way to the red line. And it's really fun. It's actually really fun. I never thought I would say that about a Harley, but it's actually a very enjoyable bike. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate this from an overall motorcycle, a new bike, and just a general riding motorcycle? Well, I give this a 7 or 8 on a general riding motorcycle. It does great on gas. It's really fun. It's comfortable. Overall handling and everything, the brakes are very responsive, no fancy ABS or any of that, which is completely fine. And it's like actually pretty darn good in the turns. Obviously you can't go drop a knee, but it actually handles better than you'd expect. If you do get loud pipes like this, that's another con. Wear earplugs. I have like gone almost completely deaf some days and had ringing ear syndrome. I'm just being a pansy, but it's loud. And if you wear a helmet, it'll just kind of cacophonate in the helmet. So be smart about the pipes you choose. I love the sound of these, but they're loud, and you will notice that over time. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're hearing like dissipates. Maybe that's the whole tale of owning a Harley, is you go deaf, but it still sounds good and you can feel the vibration between your legs. It sounds terrible. I don't know why I just said that, but you get the gist of it. Be choosy on your pipes. These are ridiculously loud. I love them and I hate them. I don't know if I could do another 200-mile trip without good earplugs. So, and you got to be like, if you're in a neighborhood where you got the people looking through their blinds and they're like, shall I call the cops on these people, on this guy? He seems like a hoodlum because of his loud motorcycle. Well, you got to consider that too. I literally will pull into my neighborhood, shut off my motorcycle, and coast into my garage, not to like make my neighbors mad. So it's really, really loud, but then it's kind of fun too, because you can just be obnoxious without trying. Overall, I really like this bike. Let's go for a ride. Enough of me talking. And if you're looking at one of these, like I said, do not knock it until you try it, because I've put easily 600 miles on this, and I'll probably put another 600 miles on this. Do I need this bike? Not really, but I've enjoyed riding it, and it's opened up my perspective on Harley Davidsons, and they honestly build a great motorcycle. And I think also the reliability aspects, they haven't been known to be the best bikes. Honestly, it's been a great bike, and the reviews that you read on these, the 883 is a stout engine. It's easy to work on. Parts are easy to get. It's American. So do your research, but in my opinion, I think Harley made a winning recipe with the 883 Sportster. And thanks for watching, and well, let's go for a ride on this thing. Oh. Oh yeah. Bacon Nation. Bacon Nation. I have no idea if you can actually hear the audio, but you can see my RPMs and what gear I am. First gear at 1300 RPMs. I